Hi there. This is a video for those of you that are following along with the online boot camp instead of actually meeting face to face. So here is the agenda for this week. We will start off with some introductions, go through a reminder of our tasks, and then really start to dive into the curriculum, including the themes and skills and practice that we'll be going through in our in-person session. So we'll skip the student introduction since this is a virtual video. And then here's just a reminder of the weekly tasks, readings, and assignments for the week. Feel free to pause if you need a reminder of what these are. The first thing that we're really going to dive into is the themes. So there are 8 themes in the APUS history curriculum, and we will tackle one theme every week, and we'll tie it into the content that we're learning. So geography and environment is a main focus of the readings this week. So this theme focuses on the role of geography and both the natural and human-made environments in the social and political developments in what would become the United States. Geographic and environmental factors, including competition over and debates about natural resources, shape the development of America and foster regional diversity. The development of America impacts the environment and reshapes geography, which leads to debates about environmental and geographic issues. So the College Board determines one theme of focus per lesson. And so as you can see, there are 7 lessons in the APUSH curriculum that are focused exclusively on geography and the environment. Now, it might pop up in other lessons, but these are the ones where geography and the environment is the main focus. This is a pretty small list in comparison to the other themes. So when you go through the curriculum, you'll want to pay attention to this, but this won't be one of the main focuses. So what should you pay attention to with this theme? It's really these questions. How did Americans adapt to their environment? So in this section, when we're focusing on Native American societies, you want to learn about how did indigenous peoples adapt to their environment? So what changes did they make because of where they lived? And then how did Americans transform their environment? So in what ways did they change the geography to better suit the way that they wanted to live? How did geographical and environmental features impact both national and regional cultures? So thinking about how the various geographic and environmental features around the country create different cultures based on where they live. One of the main focuses in the curriculum that relates to this question is going to be how the southern areas of the United States, the climate was much more suited towards commercial agriculture, which increased the demand and the desire for enslaved laborers. So there is just one example of how you can see how geography and environment impacted culture in the South. And then finally, how did geographical and environmental changes lead to debates over natural resources? So as we get especially into our 1900s, you start to see a stronger emphasis on environmental concerns and conservation. So that's kind of the question for more of the 1900s and 2000s. So after we go through that theme for our in-person session, we're going to be going through a reading discussion. So just thinking about these questions, students will hopefully have a discussion on our 2 books. So the first is The American Colonies by Taylor, and then last is the AMSCO kind of supplemental textbook. So thinking about some of the basic questions like how did the readings go? Do you prefer one type over the other? And then trying to have students summarize things that are interesting or confusing, thinking about how does this help us to understand the start of American history, how life was before our hemispheres really came into close encounters. And then finally, going back to that learning objective that we're focusing on is geography and environment. How did that impact the way indigenous peoples live? So you want to have some very specific examples of that. After our discussion, we're going to do a brief discussion of the reasoning process called causation. So in the curriculum, there's 3 reasoning processes that the College Board focuses on: causation, comparison, and continuity and change. So you can pause and read through those bullet points there, but basically what you want to be able to do is to be able to define causes and effects, to be able to link them. How does this cause lead to this? How is this historical development occurring, and why did it occur in the time that it did? And then finally, significance. You want to be able to evaluate that there were these causes, but this one was the most important, or these were the effects of something, but this effect was the most significant. So then we will go through some of these handouts and links. So you will be, and all of these are linked in the Google Classroom as well. So the first is your syllabus, your bootcamp syllabus. So I thought that some of you, depending on your vacations, may need to get ahead of the readings. And so I have the topics with the readings for the entire bootcamp there. So I will have that printed off for students, but if you are at home, you may want to print that off for yourself. The exam components flyer, which you have seen already, but it just details the various sections of the exam, as well as the themes, skills, and units. Lesson topics. So this week we're focusing on the APUSH curriculum topic 1.1, which is kind of just an overall period 1 or unit 1 summary, and topic 1.2. And so this is the specifics about what you should have been learning about in the reading this week. And then finally, this is the tasks that we are going to be using for practice. So we're going to be talking about what is a primary source. So the way that I explain this to students most easily is that a primary source is going to be a firsthand account. So let's say you were to attend a family reunion and you come home and your best friend wants to know, how was your family reunion? So you tell them about what happened. That is a primary source. That would be an example of maybe an interview, or it could be an oral history. If you wrote about what happened at the family reunion, then that would also be a primary source. If you drew a picture of it, etc., all of those are primary sources. Now, if your friend's mother asked your friend, "Oh, how was the family reunion for so-and-so?" And then your friend recounted what you told them, that's a secondary source. They weren't there. So why are these important? Well, it's the best way to understand history. Whenever possible, we want to look at the historical accounts left behind by the people that were actually there versus people who are recounting what has already been said. So here are a few ways that the curriculum that the College Board desires for you to analyze primary sources. Look at the context within which it was written. How does that affect the way it was written? Who is it written for? And does that also impact the way it was written? What is the purpose? Why are they creating this source? And what is the point of view? How does who the author or artist is impact the way that they are writing or drawing, etc.? So primary sources are really important in APUS history. You will find them in the multiple choice questions, you will find them in the short answer section, and you will also find them in the document-based question essay section of the exam. So it's really important to practice analyzing primary sources in order for you to feel comfortable enough analyzing them on the exam. So then what we'll be doing is looking at artifacts. Artifacts left behind by American Indians in 3 various locations of the United States. So you'll, and this is not an assignment that you have to do, I just recommend it, and it's what we'll be doing in our session. So looking at some seashells and beads that were found all the way in Illinois, these cliff dwellings from Colorado, and these tools for grinding paint pigments in California. So some basic questions. The first 2 questions are really basic. And then last, analyzing what does that tell you about the way that people lived? And then the last thing is to then apply it to the learning objective. How do these artifacts help dispel popular beliefs about American Indians in this time period? Looking at 4 common beliefs, how do these artifacts change your understanding? And then what do they tell us about the way that they lived and how they interacted with their environment? So that's our primary source analysis for this week. And then you will see multiple choice and short answer question practice. And again, these are linked on the Google Classroom as well. So what you'll find is that the multiple choice for APUS history is likely different from the multiple choice that you have taken for other classes. It's not just your traditional question and 4 or 5 options. It actually has what's called a stimulus first. So this is either going to be a text or an image. It could also be a graph or a map. But what you need to do is you need to read the source and then you answer the questions based not only on what's in the source, but also the information that you have learned based on the readings. And then we are going to start our first short answer question. So this is the actual short answer question that was on the AP exam in 2022. So this was question 3. Now, up to this point, you've only learned enough to answer part A. So we're going to come back next week and finish part B and C. But I wanted to just give you a chance to practice and begin to become more familiar with this type of question on the AP exam. So briefly describe one way that Native American society adapted to its environment prior to European contact. So you can see how closely aligned that is to our objective this week. So go ahead and if you have time, just fill in, a couple lines, 2 to 3 sentences, and try to be really specific here. All right, so those are the practice and handout links for this week. And the last thing that I'm planning to go through in the in-person session is to just explain these Gilder Lehrman courses, provide you with the registration link, and let you know that I can support you through these classes if you're interested in learning more about any of these topics. Finally, you all have my contact information. It's posted on the Google Classroom, but if you would like to follow me on my socials, my YouTube channel is APUSH Lady Boss, and my Instagram is at APUSH Lady Boss. So please let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking forward to continuing to learn with you.